Hey, Michael, how are you doing? I'm Vince.
Hey, you say Vince?
Yes, I'm Vince Martinez with the
Hey,
DDP
Vince.
helping out today.
How are you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Hi, Michael. Chantal, we emailed earlier.
Hey, Chantal. Yeah, thank you.
Happy Thursday.
Thursday. You guys doing well?
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, Michael, you have a pre-recorded video you're planning on playing?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and test that out and make sure you're good sharing your screen and getting the audio going and everything.
Okay. Give me one.
You can go ahead and make him, actually, go ahead and just make him a co-host.
Okay.
You click more. Yeah. And then do you want to mute yourself for a second?
Hello, Denver Startup Week. I'm glad to be here. I'm Michael Bray. I am a director of engineering at Method. Thanks again for having me. So today we're going to talk about Bootcamp to Tech Lead.
Michael, it all sounds good. Everything we're hearing fine. So should all be good to go.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. I'm going to go dark for a bit. You're welcome to too. We'll be on in about 4 minutes.
All right. Sounds
And
good.
just maybe give him a heads up on what you're going to do with your video.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So just for your information, yeah. The other part that I'll be doing is playing a short video at the top of the session. I'm not speaking. I don't like. I just play it right. Yeah. So I'll just play it right up into that time frame as people are coming on.
Okay.
And then once that finishes off, I'll pull my share off, and you're set up as co-host, as you probably saw, and so you're able to share everything from there.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right.
All right.
Thanks a
Peace.
lot.
Okay.
Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Ben Data, co-chair of DSW. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of Denver Startup Week. This community has been the catalyst for lots of change over the past decade, and this week we're coming together to celebrate the past and dream big for the future. We are able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to leadership makes this week come to life. Capital One Cafe, Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork. And our track sponsors, who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible. Founder Track, Kickstart, Growth Track, Friday Health Plans, Developer Track, Quizlet, Product Track, Palantir,
the Developer Track co-chair along with Aaron Clark and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation. A special thank you to all of our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep DSW free and accessible for all. Thank you for joining us and have a great week.
Hello, good morning, Denver Startup Week. I'm Michael Gray, and thank you so much for joining this session. This session is from Bootcamp to Tech Lead. So I've already pre-recorded, and so I'm going to go ahead and play the talk, but I will be here available for questions afterwards. So hope you enjoy and feel free to chime in with your questions. I hope we can have a great conversation. Give me one moment and I'll start the recording.
Hello, Denver Startup Week. I'm glad to be here. I'm Michael Gray. I am a director of engineering at Method. Thanks again for having me. So today we're going to talk about Bootcamp to Tech Lead, finding gems within your organization and helping them grow. A little bit about me. As I mentioned, I'm a director of engineering here at Method. I love to build things. That usually means breaking a lot of things, figuring a lot of things out, and then ultimately getting to something good. But probably equally important part of that experience is doing it with other people, right? People building things in the community, that's really the texture on the fingertips. So what we're going to talk about today, it involves people, it involves technology, two of my favorite things. So both are near and dear to my heart. So for the agenda, for today, we're going to kind of talk about some of the challenges in finding talent, right? I'm sure as really this is kind of a Captain Obvious moment, right? It is difficult to find the right skills that we need. So given that, why boot camps? So I'll talk about some of the positive things that really make finding folks for boot camps really a effective and important part of kind of today's market. Within that, what are some key things about boot camps that you should think about, consider, both if you're attending a boot camp, but also if you want to recruit or find the right talent for your organization from those boot camps. We'll talk about kind of the profile of a typical graduate. You may be surprised at actually some of the existing skill sets and background that these graduates have. And then ultimately, right, finding those gems, right, and helping them grow to become tech leads. That means, what are the gaps that we typically see from bootcamp versus CS degrees? What are those gaps, and how do we close those gaps, right, to enable people to grow into those positions where they can be leaders within your organization? So we'll talk about that, and then I'll leave some room at the end for some questions and answers, and hopefully we can come along this journey together. So let's get started. So first things, right, what are the challenges when it comes to finding the right tech talent? Again, this is not going to be really that surprising to most of you, but I'm just going to kind of name three kind of core challenges that we see today. Just in case you've been under a rock, there's a thing called the pandemic, right? That has really been a huge sort of shaker in terms of how we find the right talent. We've gone from remote work being, fairly common to now remote work is actually the status quo today. And that's had some real implications on if people can work from anywhere, then what jobs should they take? What jobs don't they take? And how does that align with your company's core values, how you work, et cetera, right? It's really a candidate market, right? They can live where they want and do the work they want to do. Separate and apart from that, but at the same time tied to it, is digital transformation. So companies now are saying, hey, in order for us to compete, we have to be able to offer our products and our services in some sort of digital format. Now, obviously, COVID has exacerbated this process. But what this has meant is that as companies really look to digitize their operations, the need for talent, the need for people with computing, software, cloud skills has just blown up, right? The growth has been exponential. As a matter of fact, the Department of Labor has said that over the next, at this point, 9 years, by 2030, the field of software and testing engineering will grow by 22%. That is more than any other industry in the United States, right? 22%. That means the need for folks with software and testing and cloud talents is only going to continue to grow. Now, a third and critical point of this, and I'm sure if you've been watching the news, you've been hearing about debt, right? College student loan debt. Right now, the average student loan amount is almost $38,000, right? $38,000. And so folks are really trying to decide whether that investment, both the time and the cost, is worth it. And are there other ways, right, that they can actually then achieve their dreams, make career transitions, and move to the computing industry? So that really leads us right into why boot camps, right? So boot camps clearly are more affordable than college. So I just mentioned what the average student loan debt is, but just as a reference point, right now for a public 4-year college degree, right, in computer science, it costs roughly $26,000 a year, okay? The average online boot camp costs roughly $13,000, okay? Time in school, although folks still talk about 4-year degrees, the average student graduates actually closer to 5 years. So you think about almost $26,000 a year over 5 years versus an average boot camp, 16 weeks, right, for roughly $13,000. So you think about time, money, opportunity costs, there's a pretty significant gap there. And then the other thing is really access. Now, certainly more and more undergraduate programs, CS degrees, you can look at online options as well. Boot camps have really nailed this, and they really transitioned very quickly during this COVID time of offering their full curriculums online. So that means you can live where you live continue to work if you work or do what you do and still enroll in these boot camps. And that's a very meaningful option for people who want to have some choice of what schools they want to go to, but can't afford to disrupt their lives. Okay. Now, one sort of caveat I do want to put here. This is not truly a apples to apples comparison, right? I'm not trying to say that a boot camp is equivalent to a computer science degree. We all know that going to college is more than just coursework, right? There are lots of other things that you get from college, and all those things are valuable. But we're going to come back to this point when we look at the typical profile of a boot camp graduate. You'll see that there's a lot more there than you may actually think. Okay. So we just talked about sort of why boot camps, right? We covered some key things that you're probably nodding your head and saying, yeah, makes sense, not a big surprise. Now, not all boot camps are the same. So there are a couple of things that you want to consider when thinking about boot camps. So roughly about 8 years ago, a council was established called the Council on Integrity and Results Reporting. Mouthful, right? Essentially, it's a body that helps provide accreditation for these online boot camps. So in the same way that universities, colleges have accreditation that validate that their programs are really best of breed, now the CIRR for short actually provides the same level of accreditation for boot camps. So you can go out and find out if the boot camps that you're recruiting from, or if you're a student that you're going to, actually is covered, is listed as part of this accreditation program. Additionally, with this, you want to ensure that the schools you're looking at are licensed by the state in which they operate in, right? This licensure ensures that there's certain validation about the officers, about the schools that exist that provides protection for the students and for the organizations that are hiring from those students. And right along with that, kind of the third piece really is around liability insurance. So this ensures that the school, this organization is going to be there, hopefully, for the long haul. So just a couple of, just a few tidbits there that really can help you qualify the schools that you're looking to find talent. Here is just really 3 short links that can help you actually find this. Course report is a great report that focuses on lots of really information, demographics, all sorts of information about boot camps. I think that you'll find really useful. And this site has been instrumental as part of this actual talk, as part of a key source. There is a best colleges link here that actually will help you find different boot camps and what technologies, whether it's back end, whether it's front end, Angular, React, or data science, et cetera, help you find those best colleges for you need. Now, I mentioned earlier about the profile of your typical bootcamp graduate. So let me list off a few interesting sort of tidbits here. The average age of a graduate is roughly 31 years old. They have around 7 years of work experience already. 74% already have a bachelor's degree. 35% of these graduates are women. So when we're thinking about beginning to recruit underutilized segments of our population, boot camps are also a great place to find graduates. 7% are African American, and 8% have served in the military, right? So it really is a fairly mature sort of audience that's graduating from these boot camps. So earlier when I mentioned that it wasn't really an apples to apples comparison between a boot camp graduate and a CS undergrad graduate, what you realize here is that the majority of your graduates already have a lot of that sort of beyond academic experience. And so that makes them really valuable because they bring some perspective, work history that you can find really valuable for your engineering teams. Now, what are some of the common skill gaps that you see from someone that graduates from a boot camp versus your traditional CS degree. There are a few things, and again, this is not all, but these are really kind of the highlights. CI/CD tools, right? Continuous integration, continuous delivery tools and processes. And many boot camps, this is not really a core focus of understanding the role that this plays in delivering software today. Application architecture. There's one thing to go out and build an application. There's another thing to understand the mechanics and the mechanisms that you need to actually design and build, and think about all the pieces that go into building an application. Unit testing. So unit and automated testing, right? How does that fit to the process, right? This also ties into the CI/CD piece here, but typically in your average 14-week program, you're not going to have a lot of time to really focus on how to do this well. And then the two other options, which are data structures and algorithms. Typically, you're focused on this in boot camps. You will get some of that, but given the time frame, it's going to be a little bit limited. And so these are some common skill gaps that you'll see from folks that graduate from boot camps versus some of the core courses that are part of your standard CS degree. Well, if those are the gaps, then what do you do then to help close those gaps? Because remember, right, this talk is finding those gems and then helping them grow to become tech leads. So here are a few ways to really help grow your bootcamp graduates. One is pairing your graduates with senior engineers, helping them to get into a code base, understand why certain decisions are made, and also the ability to point out sort of the best practices. Also having documentation, written guides and examples. So, hey, here's some concepts, here's some examples in our code base that really map to those, so they can really begin to marry, right, the theory with the actual writing code. There's nothing like one-on-one connections. So with project leads and team members, having regular one-on-ones that really allow room for asking questions, getting answers, and providing context, that is an extremely valuable tool in helping to grow your people. And then let people get their hands dirty. Give them actual work to do, right? Give them the work and then come along beside them with the team, have code reviews, give them meaningful real-time feedback so that they can incorporate and see, continue to learn about those things they've read, about information they learned from those one-on-ones, and help them then incorporate that in how they do their work. And then the other thing really is that actually providing additional training tools. We know that in many cases, there are courses out there, there's things like Udemy or other programs, Pluralsight, for example, that provide very specific and targeted training. And so as your engineers begin to really hone in, right, these types of training can really supplement and undergird really the things that they've learned. And so these are really valuable ways to begin to bring your engineers along. And really, as they continue to grow your organization, continuing to look at these items that I just listed, begin to just continue to hone those and focus on skill sets and gaps. And as they close those gaps, help them then to focus on other areas such as managing people and soliciting feedback and helping to grow others. So you can really achieve these things with a intentional and targeted plan, and then tailor that plan to each individual because everyone is a little bit different. With that, I really appreciate your time. I look forward to answering any questions. And again, Michael Gray, and thank you.
Thank you. Denver Startup Week, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Definitely appreciate your time. I know it's early in the morning there. Well, if there are no questions, again, I hope you have a great day and enjoy. Oh, here we go. So a question that was just posted into the chat. What were some of the knowledge gaps you had to focus on after graduating from a boot camp? Well, I think some of those really, in particular, CI/CD, so continuous integration and continuous development. While I actually have a degree, some folks that I worked with and had on my team have really needed to focus on understanding. There's one thing to build a solution on your machine. There's another thing to then integrate that with your source control, say GitHub, for example, and then how do you then build that and within that process execute test to validate that your code is working the way that you expect it to work, and then also having that deployed into some environment. So whether that's mobile and you're actually building an app, or you're actually pushing that to a server. So really understanding the continuous integration and continuous development piece is really a core gap that I've seen folks really need to step into pretty quickly as they join engineering teams. Second question here was, how do you suggest a bootcamp grad makes themselves stand out in the application pool? This is another great question. In a word, I would say experience. So quite often, one of the things that you can do is actual create side projects, right? That you can actually create a public GitHub account and actually create projects where you're able to show your work, show that you're able to apply the actual things that you've learned, right? And really don't wait until you've finished the course. Along the way, actually create some side projects and stand those up. Those will not only for your own learning help solidify the things that you're learning, but they also then provide evidence of your ability to do that work. And one of the great ways for folks to really understand how you think and how you code is to be able to see that work. So I would suggest find some cool projects, some cool ideas, and you literally can Google. There's some sites that you can Google that'll actually give you ideas of things to build. So I'd say, yeah, go out and show your work. I think that's a great way to stand out from the rest. Oh, okay. I think there are a few questions in the Q&A. Thanks. So one of the questions here is, what about retaining people after you have spent time training them? So I think that's that can be a broad topic, but let me speak to a few things I think that are really important. I think one is having conversations about expectations, right? So when folks get into the workforce, there are always expectations about the type of projects, the type of work they're going to do. And quite often there can be a gap between that expectation and the work that is at hand, right? And so how do you navigate that conversation? So the best way to do that is to be upfront and to get those expectations out on the table. So I say that's one. A second key point really is about growth, right? So we know that in technology, right, things are changing quickly and fast, and all engineers want to feel like that they are growing and keeping up, right? So what are those things that as an employer, as a manager, that you can do to help foster that growth? And like one of the things that Method does, for example, is that we provide our engineers with a training budget, right? So here's some money that you can go and you can put towards learning, right? Because all learning requires some initiative on the part of the employee. So providing mechanisms by which folks can actually engage in that learning. And then the other is to have a culture of learning, right? So within the organization, allow people to come together and to have conversations and create projects, even if that's an internal hackathon. So there's this level of continual reinvesting in your people, and that is pushing personal initiative and also really driving company culture to help sort of foster and undergird that learning experience. Next question here is, are there any schools that will accept boot camp courses for college credits? So this is an interesting question here, because initially we were seeing boot camps as totally separate entities than universities. But now what you're starting to see is that there are a number of universities that actually, as part of the curriculums, actually have carved out boot camps within a university setting. And so because of that, they are actually able to share, you're actually able to get college credit for participating in those university sponsored programs. So that's a long answer to yes, you can get some college courses for that. You do need to look at which schools have those programs. But that definitely can be a way if you do want to work towards a degree to be able to combine boot camp along with college credits. A great place to look at that is the link I provided. But if you just Google course report, they've got a wealth of information and a number of sites out there where you can actually find some of these schools that actually then have boot camps embedded within them. So definitely that's a great site to check out. Next question here. What's one thing you would tell your younger self about when you were just coming out of your boot camp? As I said before, I personally have a computer information degree, but I will say I've been hiring as a hiring manager folks in boot camps from well over 10 years at this point. And I would say the feedback that I've gotten from folks from the boot camp really is, invest in yourself. Many of the folks have really taken a gamble. They may, given the profile that I mentioned, a number of folks already have degrees. They've invested time, money, may still have college debt, but they really want to make a change. And, that can be pretty scary because, many of them have lives and families and that sort of thing. But if it's something that you really want to do, I'd say research, find what's best for you, but invest in yourself. Take a chance. At this point, I think there's a slide in there where I mentioned this industry being software testing and all that, is going to grow 22% between now and 2030. What does that mean? There's lots of opportunity. So this is a great space. So invest in yourself. Last question here is, when you have a small development team, it can be hard to provide mentorship without slowing down the team. Do you still think it makes sense to hire bootcamp graduates for very small teams? And in very small teams, they're saying less than 10. So I'll give you the great consultant answer, right? Depends, right? So it's always important to weigh the pros and cons. And this is where you want to look at what is the need of your team. And again, many of the boot camps really specialize in certain skill sets, right? So if you can find places where folks really are targeting the skills that the team needs. And remember, when you think about the profile of an average graduate, many of them have work experience, right? They already have a degree. And so they can bring a lot of maturity and a lot of other things to the team. And folks are really motivated and quite often really fast learners. So it depends, right, on the need of the team. And if you don't have the ability to hire, given the market for that, then yes, that may make sense. But part of your criteria for selecting that person may mean that they need to be more self-sufficient or earlier on. So it'll be important to include that in your vetting process, right? To really get a sense of how motivated and how self-sufficient someone can be. So not an exact answer, but it really is. Okay. I think we're a couple of minutes over. I really appreciate your questions and your engagement here. Thank you so much. And I hope that you have a great day. All right. Take care. All the best.